Hi and good afternoon and welcome to the Gender Speaker Show. So I'm still getting the hang of all these little bits of technology, but that was a bit smoother, I think. So today I'm going to be talking about labels. In particular, I'm going to be looking at transvestite, transsexual, transgender, cisgender. Those are four particular labels around. There are so many now. If you haven't heard, you may know. If you now go onto Facebook, and instead of putting male or female, click other and then start typing. There are, well, the last time I counted, there were at least 71 different labels you can apply. But I'll be honest, I have seen so many new ones. There was at least 30 I discovered that weren't even in that list. And since then, I have found more and more lists of new ones being created almost on a sort of daily basis. People are coming up with a new idea and a label. So I'm going to go back to those original ones just to start with, just to get a bit of a sense of what this is all about on all these different labels. We've got to go back to basically 1910 when it started. Before 1910, trans people were pretty much lumped in with, gay people. The term gay hadn't been even invented then. Today we probably just call everybody queer. That fits into that whole big category. But the first gay rights campaigner, the man who's sort of attributed to being the one who got gay rights campaigns off the ground, was Magnus Hirschfeld in Germany. He was fighting against some German legislation, paragraph 175, which he was really moving quite well in terms of trying to get that squashed and get homosexuality decriminalized within Germany. Along came Hitler a few years later, which messed it all up. But back in 1910, that was what he was doing. He wrote a book in which he talked about transvestism. And that was the first time that term had come up. At the time, there were a variety of sexology had become a big topic. Lots of people were trying to come out with new ideas and new labels. We had masochism come out, which had been labeled after a well-known, can't remember, but basically an aristocrat in Europe. And they were going to try and use the term Eonism to describe people who like to cross-dress, essentially dress in the clothing of the other gender. And this is a time when cross-dressing, either male or female, was considered to be a fetish of some kind, and there were clubs around there, and it was all part of a very mixed gay community, particularly in Berlin. So transvestism came out as the first term, people who like to dress in the clothing of the other gender. Again, we're still talking about this idea of a binary, very much embedded into European culture. Hirschfeld himself, a gay man, but believed to be prone to a bit of cross-dressing from time to time. He set up a clinic, the first gender clinic in the world, and he started to get people coming to him, and he began to realize that increasingly there were people who didn't just want to dress in the other gender. There were people who actually wanted their bodies completely changed. And he helped some women become men and men become women, and the beginnings of surgery. And if you've seen the film The Danish Girl, that's based upon the life of Lily Elbe, a Danish painter, and her wife, Gerda. The story of The Danish Girl was a fictionalized account of what happened in Lily's life. Lily died because it was probably discovered that Lily was actually intersex, and that her body was actually probably more female than male. And she desperately wanted to have a baby, and they were trying to do surgery to enable her to have a baby. And I don't even do that today, 100 years later. So that gives you some idea about how advanced things were beginning to get. So the term transsexual also emerged then. So we've got Hirschfeld bringing in transvestite. Transsexual emerged as a term, but to be honest, it didn't catch on. And then along came the war. You may have seen those pictures of the Germans burning books. that was actually Magnus Hirschfeld's library, because he'd built this huge library of gay literature and done lots of research on it. He was a huge target of the Nazis when they came to power in May 1933. Hirschfeld was out of the country at the time. He was never able to go back. And that was pretty much the end of the campaign to improve rights. After the war in Britain, Cauldwell, and I've forgotten his her first name, Roberta Cauldwell, was the first sort of fairly famous person who went through surgery. Most of the surgery then was being done in Casablanca. That was where April Ashley went. It wasn't where Christine Jorgensen went to Denmark, but the place for trans surgery became Casablanca. That was the place for everybody that everybody went. Nothing like as advanced as the surgery today. In America, Harry Benjamin picked up things and started to develop the basic standards for how to treat someone who wanted surgery and hormone treatment to physically change their body. So we've got these two terms: transvestite for someone who likes to cross-dress, often on a part-time basis, just for the nights out, not on a full-time basis. And then we've got transsexual for somebody who isn't so interested in the clothing aspect, but wants to change their body and become the other gender. And they want to blend in and literally be, most of the transsexual people I know really aren't very keen on the whole non-binary campaign, because they like the idea of the binary. They want to be part of, they want to be female, they want to be male, they want to live their lives in that other gender, and they want to do everything to become connected and become recognized and become treated as if they are the other gender. So that was where we had, as we came into the 60s. Transsexual has now become a common term. We'd had a few very famous people like Christine Jorgensen and April Ashley, who had famously got into the news, and Cauldwell, Roberta Cauldwell, who become very famous because they changed gender. Another very famous person in America was Virginia Prince. Now, Virginia Prince was, if you like, the champion of the heterosexual crossdresser. This is men mostly who had got married, but actually like to dress as women. It's very much, I think transvestism had really become very much a male to female thing. It's people arguing very strongly that they were heterosexual. They were all often married, often with their wives in joining them in nights out. In the United Kingdom, and a society being set up similar to the one that Virginia Prince has set up. She set up Tri-S in America, with lots of meetings held mostly in people's houses and in small venues where people could just get together and meet. And then there were those on the other side who, in the UK, we set up the Beaumont Society in the late 60s, the same thing. Now, Virginia Prince decided that she was going to live as a woman, but she said, I don't want surgery. I don't want surgery at all. I'm just going to live as a woman and dress and live as a woman. And she said, I'm transvestite, I'm not transsexual. God, my phone has suddenly decided to be silly. So she invented a new term. She invented the term transsexual, also transgender, to replace the terms that we had previously been used to. So once that happened, the term transgender started to become well known and started to become part of our culture. The problem was it sort of emerged as the umbrella term. Now, what's happened today is that we've lost transsexual and transvestite because they've become connected with a sort of rather negative context. And now we use the term transgender as an overriding term. And in fact, in some cases, people are beginning to think of transgender more as an alternative to transsexual. But transgender originally meant, and to a lot of extent does, mean people who transition but don't actually have surgery. So cisgender, well, we've got cisgender came along. Because we have transgender, if you're not transgender, what are you? Well, if you say normal, that makes trans people abnormal. So what happened then was an idea that let's have cisgender. We've got homosexual and heterosexual. Let's have transgender and cisgender. So there we are. That's just a little bit of an introduction to some of the terms. Lots more. I'm going to talk about that over the weeks to come. I'm going to be dealing with that in some depth on my workshops, which you'll find details in the comments on Facebook. I've put some details in there. I'm going to be promoting this quite heavily. You'll find it on Eventbrite, where you can get the details of what's going on. But please do come along and join me on one of those courses. So there we go. Nice to talk to you today, and tomorrow I'll be back with some more thoughts on gender. For now, let's see if we can exit with my video. Take care. See you tomorrow.